The following presentation was recorded live for the International Association of Square Dance Callers 21st Annual Convention. This is tape number 14, Square Dance Promotion.
Thank you very much all for joining us this afternoon. My name is Bill Heyman, and I'd like to welcome you cordially to the session on Square Dance Promotion, and would like to briefly introduce our panelists. They will then further introduce themselves and make some very, very interesting presentations for you. First, we have Otto Warteman to my far left. Otto's been calling for 27 years for clubs sort of all over the place, but I guess primarily in Texas. Is that a fair statement? And they've had exhibition groups for the last 20 years, obviously very involved in promotion, and worked in the activity as both district officers, caller association officers, and as volunteers for local and state clubs and so forth. To my immediate left is Brian Elmer. He has been a dancer. He's not a caller. He has been dancing since his teen years. Not too far, actually not dancing that long, and has been dancing since his teen years. He's been very active at the federation level particularly, and he will be further introducing himself also. I'd also like to introduce each of their respective spouses. Otto's wife Nora is back here to my left, to your right, and Brian's wife Rosa is to the right. Okay. Rosalind, I'm sorry. I didn't have that written down properly. My apologies. Very good. Our general theme today is promotion, and what I'd like to do is to have each of these panelists present to you some very, very interesting material that they have been working on, that they have used successfully in their many years in the activity. I will then make some brief comments, and then what I'm particularly looking forward to is to your participation, and the only thing that I would ask, or actually two things that I would ask are, number one, if you have a comment or a question, it must go into the microphone. We obviously have hundreds of people who are going to be getting the tapes to this. They would also like to participate in this. And let's talk on a positive note, not a negative note. Don't tell us about what didn't work in your area. Let's talk about the things that did work, and maybe we can get some synergy going with various ideas that these two panelists have presented with things that have worked in your area, and maybe at the end of the session we can really come up with some very specific and very tangible things. If I could ask Otto to start at the far end, I thank you.
Well, first of all, I don't do real well sitting. About 5 years ago, I got really involved with the Houston Square and Round Dance Council when a president came to me and asked me if I would head up the promotion of square and round dancing for the council. And I, as a caller, felt that it was really not my position to do so. But I had been in sales for 25 years, and I felt that no one else was doing it, and I had better try to lend a hand. I'm really involved in video, and what I'd like to talk to you about is there are a lot of areas out there that can be very beneficial to you. And those areas are access cable television. The Congress of the United States gave cities and municipalities the right to write up in the contracts with the cable carriers a requirement, if they so wished, to have access cable in the communities. Some of us know access cable as what you see in the newspaper, somebody ran some nudity on it. Let me tell you from the very beginning that that is less than 1/100th of what goes on access cable. The community really watches it. In the Houston area, we have 380,000 homes on cable television. You have a market that's unreal, and access cable is free. If you would like to put on a television show on access cable, all it requires is some hard work by some people and a little bit of money for videotapes. The equipment is there for your use. The studios are there for your use. The edit suites are there for your use. And the airtime is free. Because within the franchise agreement with the city taxes every video viewer. And that tax goes back to operate a government channel, an educational channel, possibly, and a public access channel. And to give you some figures, there are 1,000 municipalities in the United States that has access cable. There are 2,000 channels being used, and it's there for your taking. So, and there are also radio, free public radio, where you don't buy commercial time. You can't give commercials, but you don't buy commercial time. So, and let me give you a for instance, because Brian is going to show you some stuff that they did here in British Columbia. If I'd have known he was doing this, I'd have brought some tapes, because we put about 40 shows on television in Houston. Denver, Colorado started using access cable for promotion of square dancing 12 years ago. They were one of the first. They put on, in a period of 6 years, they put on over 200 shows promoting square dancing, and that's how their dancer population really grew. If you don't advertise, no one is going to know about you. And but in the city of Houston, we have four channels. We have an E1, which is an educational channel operated by the Houston Independent School District. Houston Independent School District has their own production facilities. If you would like to show video on square dancing for school kids, it can be on E1 and played in the daytime within the schools. All you have to do is get with the school district. And I guarantee you, you have the same facilities in your cities. All you have to go to your district education agencies, and it's there. We have E2 in Houston, which used to be an international channel, because we have a lot of Vietnamese, we have Chinese Americans, we have Japanese Americans, we have Hispanics from South America and Central America and Mexico. That channel is now operated by the Houston Community College, and it is continuing adult education. So if you wanted to show square dance lessons every week on television, you could do it. And I guarantee you, you've got it in your city. All you have to do is look for it. It's out there, and it costs nothing, absolutely hardly anything. Videotape is cheap, and it's erasable. You run a program, you don't like it, you run a new one over the top of it. And then we have the public access channel. And let me explain some rules on public access. You have to sign a contract, folks. And I don't care who the carrier operator is, but ASCAP and BMI are in access cable. But they're not enforcing a single rule because it's free. They go after deep pockets. They don't go after someone who has no money. So if you are, as an individual, are putting on square dancing, they could care less, because access cable was created by the Supreme Court. They ruled that the general public had a right to the television channels. They don't want to go before the Supreme Court. But all you have to do is state, and I have a form that Houston Access Cable uses, and it says that, number one, the material in this video is not libelous, slanderous, unlawful invasion of privacy. Number two, all material which violates, there is no material that violates state or federal law relating to obscenity. There isn't any material contrary to local, state, or federal laws, regulations, procedures, and policy, or unlawful use of copyrighted material. And what they're wanting you to do is sign off that you're letting them know that you've got releases on everything. They're not doing that because they're worried about you. They're worried about them, because Warner Cable and TCI have deep pockets. Okay? And the last item is, it does not represent a national threat. That's the only thing you got to worry about. Okay? So you say, well, I don't know a thing about television. How do I do this? Well, they have classes. In our area, it cost $150 to go to a class that took place from 8 o'clock every Saturday morning till 5 o'clock every Saturday afternoon, and Sunday morning to Sunday afternoon for a month, 64 hours. Taught you camera techniques, framing your shots, editing suites, lighting, sound, everything. When you completed that, you get a certificate that I can do videos. Up here, you say. But then you can get your crew together and you can start scripting and putting together what you want to show. And I wrote out a whole bunch of things that if y'all would like to have copies of, I'm real particular about what I'm going to put on TV. Because I think as a salesperson, the first impression a client sees when I walk in the room is the everlasting impression. I will not use a caller that has the floor standing still. If he calls wheel and deal and the dancers are not moving, I look at the country western channels and I see them two-stepping and they're taking one step to every beat of music, and I see square dancers standing for 4. That's not in my video. I do not use any shots that will show the legs of the women. I shoot almost all shots 2 to 3 feet above the heads of the dancers so that I don't show short dresses. I want to leave the impression that everyone is smiling. I do extreme close-ups and cutaways. A cutaway is where we have people smiling on the sides, and if I have a square broken down, I will never show a square broken down. I will go to a cutaway and drop it in and keep the music and soundtrack going and bring the camera over to something else and go back to the square dance. But you've got to have cutaways. And always show smiling dancers. And if you're doing rounds, sometimes that becomes difficult. Okay? And it looks like you're picking on certain dancers because you keep putting them in the video. But there are round dancers that... How many of y'all remember Nita Manning Smith's exhibitions? When you showed them, if you showed them on TV, you could sell round dancing to anybody because they totally enjoyed what they were doing and you could see it in their face. That's what you've got to do. You've got to show the joy of the dance and the joy of the music. No broken down squares, everything going perfect. Because you're going to leave them with that impression. And are there any questions? I'm already talking here and I'm drying up.
When you're showing square dancing on television,
can I come over here to the mic? Yes.
You also give your name on the mic, please.
Osa Matthews from Palm Springs, California. We've done quite a bit of television shows, both nationwide and local. And the things that our television company told us was that the girls should wear bright, and fellas, bright clothes, not white things, because they will not show up on television.
And no reds.
And no reds. And that you're so right about keeping everyone moving and smiling. The only thing that you have to caution your television people, and you have to do it very carefully because they're the knowledgeable people and they don't take to someone outside coming in and telling them how to run something. But you can ask them nicely if they would not focus on just the women's legs and their twirlings. It's really... we have local comment that saw the programs, and they said that's about all we saw. And what we really need to punch on television is the fact that we have all these videos for exercise, you know, and health-wise and so on and so forth, but very little on how wonderful square dancing is as an exercise for the mind. As you're exercising the body, the mind is being worked too. And for senior citizens, that's a plus, because sometimes you get in a rut and set, and as you let your mind stop thinking, that's the way it goes. So this is a plus for either one.
Well, I don't know what everyone else's situation is in your different cities and different locations, but I'll give you a for instance. Without having a access channel, the little town of Crockett, Texas, 2,600 population, has a cable company. I was calling a dance at Grapeland, Texas, and I was going to bring my exhibition group up there. So the guy calls me and says, Otto, do you have a videotape of your exhibition group? On the TV, every day, there's a schedule running from that cable company with the weather and all. A VHS tape with a 30-minute program played with the words running across the bottom. This exhibition group will be in Grapeland, Texas on this night at this time. You're all invited. I drove up to the hall, and our dancers from Houston, we were 140 miles from Houston, we could not hardly get in the parking lot. The people that came out for that. You can feed any cable company a VHS tape, and they'll run it, because they've got dead air. They're constantly looking for something, and they're looking for something that is good, clean, family entertainment. When I started putting square dancing on TV in Houston, it was the first non-controversial, and I'm using this now because we're talking about Lyndon LaRouche or American Nazi parties, and I swear probably 50, 60 different church denominations were all wanting to be. And if the churches can get on TV, you can. And every evangelist in the world was on access cable. And it's available to you. The only thing you need to remember is that your biggest investment is not dollars. Access Houston operates on a 3/4 inch format. And for those of you that are not familiar, VHS is 1/2 inch. 3/4 inch is the old pneumatic industrial tape, and a 1-hour tape costs about $19, $20. And the file tapes or the footage tapes are 20 minutes long, and they cost about $9.50. So when we went out to buy tapes 5 years ago, we spent about $800 on 5 cases of tape. We have never bought another tape. Put 40 shows on. We showed the Texas Singles Roundup 1-hour show. The Red Boot Boys at the Houston Hoedown. We put John Jones riding up to the Houston Hoedown on a horse. You just name it. We had 169 phone calls on the John Jones dance with Rocky Strickland in 1 month. The biggest thing you need to remember is you can do all this video work. You can do all the editing and everything. If you don't set up a system for accepting the calls, doing the follow-up, and making the personal contacts with these people, you have wasted a lot of time and a lot of energy. And that's what happened to us. We ended up with about 40 squares of dancers in class out of the first video. But nothing was done with the second year by the dancer associations. So I think if we're going to do video, we need to do it amongst the callers within a close-knit group of your own people that are close with you, and work it so that you accept the calls, because I guarantee you can promote it. And it's not expensive. There's something else to remember in that we are a cultural art. How many of you in big cities, big municipalities, you have a cultural art society, right? Did you know that the Cultural Arts Society, if you do exhibitions for conventions, for civic organizations, and you join the Cultural Arts Society, don't sit there and just do it for them, but join and pay an annual dues. And you ask for funding to pay for your hall rental, for rehearsals, you can get funding out of the National Endowment for Arts and the Cultural Arts Council. It's available. The whole deal is every city has a budgetary item for cultural arts. And the private sector matches it. It's there. You've got to utilize it. There was another item I wanted to bring up in here, and that was radio. How many cities around here have talk radio? In Houston, we got 2 radio stations that are going at each other constantly. Talk radio is the big thing all over the country right now. Rush Limbaugh. There are also on the same radio stations non-controversial, just laid back and relaxed talk hosts. They talk about anything. Vacations. We had one in Houston called Doug Johnson. Find out who the producer is in your area for your talk radio host, a person that is a good personality, non-controversial. Write them a letter. Ask them if you could be on their show for 10 to 15 minutes. Leave them your phone number because you don't have to go to the studio. They call you and they say, Otto Warteman. They start off, they say, we're going to contact a person by the name of Otto Warteman. He's with the Houston Square and Round Dance Council, and he's got some great... He said, I remember taking square dancing when I was in junior high school. And we're going to have him on the radio. Hi, Otto, how you doing? And the next thing you know, you're on. And in Houston, they have 500,000 listeners daily. Because radio is not like television. It covers 200-mile radius. And it's available. And you give phone numbers. And I guarantee you, a month after that happened, Doug Johnson in his computer, somebody calls in, you know, he had a host or someone that was on square dancing. And the producer has already keyed it in the computer and is reading there on the screen. He says, yes, that's Otto Warteman. You can contact him at this number. And that's available to you, and it doesn't cost us a penny. But you've got to follow up on every phone call you get. You've got to send a letter to those people that called you, and you can't use answering machines. Let me tell you the reason why you can't use answering machines. 1 out of 10 calls on an answering machine do not leave a number. Let me rephrase that. 1 out of 10 calls will leave a number. Unless they know you, you're never going to hear from them again. Unless they are driven to call back, you'll never hear from them again. And I'll give you a reason for that. On the E1 channel, we had a computer show. We had a health show on Tuesday nights. Wednesday nights, we had The Law in You. Each night, we had 2 call-in 1-hour shows on the educational channel for adults. We didn't have a good phone system, and the people they'd want to call in, and we'd have to take their number and call them back. 1 out of 10 would give us their phone number. They didn't want anyone to know who they were. And the same way it is, they're not going to leave you a phone number on an answering machine if they don't know you. So, a good suggestion on the phone deal on the mic is have a committee so that the phone can be rolled over to another home so that it never is answered by a machine.
A lot of times I've found out when they call and catch an answering machine, they won't even talk to the answering machine.
That's right. You get
so
clicks.
You don't know how many people beyond the answering machine didn't even talk to the answering machine.
Yeah, you just get clicks and some dead time. There's a beep. That's it. So, but do you want to hear about the mechanics of putting together a video? Do y'all want to hear about that? Let me tell you, you're going to need some people. And first of all, the one that you're going to need is a producer, and I don't want to say that you need to create a God, but he's going to have to be God, because he's got to coordinate the whole thing. You need a script writer. You need some people that are dedicated, that want to spend some time. We put on 10 shows this past fall, my exhibition group and I, 10 30-minute shows, and what we wanted to do was we wanted to show that we could put a schedule of the special events for that week in Houston to the Square Dancers over the airways. And the whole idea behind that was not for the Square Dancers, because only about 15-20% of the Square Dancers had cable. They were always out square dancing. They didn't stay home watch TV. But we wanted to let the rest of the world know that there were 65 square dance clubs in Houston. And when you gave out the schedule of all the special dances that week, and it took 5-6 minutes, people are impressed. Golly, I didn't know that there were that many square dance clubs. We also gave 5 minutes of styling. We also went out and shot footage of a square dance and did interviews so that we could put together a 30-minute show. In that 30 minutes, I used the CALLERLAB couch potatoes inserts. I can't do that anymore because the new cable rules say that I can only run an address and phone number the last 30 seconds of the program. There can be no live phone numbers running for further information call. So it has to be at the end. It can't be a commercial. So each one of those videos took 20 hours to put together. So when you put 30 minutes on, remember it's 20 hours of video time, either in shooting, editing, or what have you. That's not script writing. That's additional. And any other questions? So your biggest investment is time, not money. And it's a big investment. Yes?
Yeah, Tim Pratt from San Marcos, California. You mentioned the couch potatoes video. Is there any feedback at all as to how successful or unsuccessful the couch potato videos put down by CALLERLAB have been?
Number one, I don't know. But in our area, we could not put it on commercial television. We are a big, we're a big media area. We have Fox, CBS, NBC, and ABC. And commercial airtime is very, very costly. There's something else I'd like to convey to you. You're going to have to use the mic. I was a promotion director for a St. Jude's Children's Hospital thing. Go ahead.
Yeah. I'm Jerry Montgomery from Twin Palms, California. We used the couch potato ad to promote our class. We got no response from it, and it cost us about $400 to put it on our local cable.
On your local cable? Mm-hmm. Do you have an access channel there? Check. We tend not to be involved as square dancers with the community. I made a statement this morning that there's another life besides square dancing, and it was golf for me. But when we fail to become involved within the community, then we can't really reach out to the community to become involved with us. The vice president of Federal Express in Memphis, who runs the St. Jude's Golf Classic for the PGA, told me over the phone that the way they get all the volunteers and all the television coverage nationwide for their promotion for St. Jude's Children's Hospital is that every time a television station has a food drive, Federal Express employees will be there working with Federal Express shirts on, because television stations will give you free time if you give them free time. You can't expect something out of a commercial television that's making money with a viewing audience of 2 or 3 million to do something for 2,000 people if those 2,000 people don't do anything for them. You have got to become involved in the community. And we as square dancers tend not to do that. We're involved in square dancing. This past weekend, the big walkathon. This coming weekend, the Crippled Children's Walkathon in Houston, 14 miles. Texas Commerce Bank, Conoco, Exxon, Chevron will all have employees with their shirts, with their logos. We'll have square dancers there, but not a one of them will have a square dance shirt on. We need to market ourselves to the non-dancing public better. And there are all kinds of opportunities. If you can imagine putting 2,000 square dancers in a walkathon. That's... Anyone else? Yes.
Chuck Vermeil from Payson, Arizona. I used to live in Santa Barbara. We used that, I bought that couch potato thing and tried it with public access there. And they took a look at it and just kind of laughed about it. They ended up letting me use one 15-second segment. That couch potato thing they wouldn't even show. And we got no response from it. How many of you people watch public access? I tried to see the program. I watched that thing for hours. They said they showed it, but I never saw it. We didn't get any response. So how do you get the public? I mean, the talk show radio thing I think is a great idea. I'm going to try that. But how do you get people to watch that public?
Well, the number one thing to do is, let me explain something about public access cable. It's a first come, first serve. If you have a 30-minute show in the Houston area, you can only show it 10 times. You can only reserve 5 hours of airtime. You can only show it 10 times in any one 30-day period. If you turn it in 3.5 weeks prior to airtime, so you're always way in advance. If you're talking about a dance that's going to take place September 1st, your class is going to start September 1st, you have got to turn that videotape, schedule your airtime the end of June. It will be in the TV guide, it will be in the newspapers, and it will be under square dancing. And you will know exactly what time it is. They are not going to run a PSA. A PSA is a tack-on to someone else's program. In public access, all programs must be timed to exactly 30 minutes or 1 hour. There is a beep on the tape. The cable carrier will put the beep in it. You put sound on track 2 or track B. Track A has the sequencing code for the automatic playback equipment. And what happens is, if someone has a program that's only 29.5 minutes long, they go to the PSA file and say, well, I got to fill this tape up. That's how you get couch potatoes on cable or access if you're not producing the show. If you wanted to put couch potato for 30 solid minutes, that would be one way to control, that it went on. But otherwise, you're not going to get it on because your tape has got to run exactly 30 minutes. You got a 10-second countdown, color bars. In fact, I wish I'd brought a tape. If I'd have known all these TVs were here, I'd have brought you some tapes to show you. But we got a countdown. It counts down from 10. It gets to 2 seconds. It goes to black, and bam, it's on. And it's good production. It's good video. We're going to fiber optics in Houston right now. The reason I'm so involved in it is I am on the board of directors of the Access Cable Corporation of Houston, appointed by the mayor of the city of Houston. And the reason I was appointed was because I was a producer. They wanted a producer's viewpoint on the board. Yes.
I'm Carl Brandt from Fort Wayne, Indiana, and in the first 2 weeks of May, I'm going to repeat what we've been doing the last 5 years with some retarded children, where I'll dance the senior citizens one-on-one, and we'll have 3 20-minute segments, and there'll be various types of handicapped children. And I thought you might have some suggestions that we could use that to show people that, hey, if you get into square dancing, it's something other than just what you may see in square dance. You can out dance with the kids and do things like that. Do you have any suggestions I might use there?
I would get with the public school district, see if they could videotape it. Either that or go, if you're using a park and it's part of a city facility.
Well, we'll be in the IUPU Wald Memorial building, so we'll be inside.
What I'm talking about is a city facility.
Oh, yes, Purdue, IU Purdue.
Okay. Go ahead and get them to videotape it for you and see if they'll do it and give you the tape. Just like I have the tape for the National Square Dance Convention in Houston from the Astrodome complex. There's something else you need to realize. I said earlier, the viewers will, what they see is what they perceive. Mm-hmm. And I don't want to offend a lot of people, but we're old. And if you continue to show old people, and that was what I found as I critiqued the CALLERLAB tapes, was those PSAs had old people dancing. Mm. And you show old people dancing, you're going to recruit old people. Young kids don't want to dance with their grandparents. That's just a fact of life. They're going to do their thing. And we need to show younger people dancing. And because we have a real short span when people are 65 years old. They're not going to be in the activity very long.
I'll take them.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Would you join me in a big hand for Otto? Thank you. That is certainly very enlightening, and I think you can realize now, both from the comments coming from the floor as well as Otto's comments, that it is somewhat complex. You know, it's not a real easy thing to do, but there's a lot of possibility there, and if you're willing to do the kind of committee work and recruit a circle of hardworking people, there are possibilities to do that selectively, carefully, at relatively moderate expense. I'd like to now turn the microphone over to Brian. It's all yours.
Hi. I think you're going to find that Otto and myself have got complimentary presentations, and that'll be good. First of all, I want to say good afternoon, and it's certainly an honor to be part of CALLERLAB here, to be here as a guest of CALLERLAB. Am I loud enough, everybody? Okay, great. We're here to talk about promotion, so now what do you think about what we've done with the Bank of Canada dropping the rate on the Canadian dollar so all you American visitors can come and join us here? That's called dollar persuasion. We persuaded you to come. There's the ultimate promotion. Welcome also to Vancouver. I'm a native of this area myself, and welcome to some of you to Canada for the first time, I'm sure. Who am I? I thought apart from what Bill has had a chance to tell you already, I thought I'd just give you an idea of why I'm here and what my background is. I hold a Diploma of Technology in Broadcast Communications in the television area from the BC Institute of Technology. That's a tough word, Institute of Technology. And perhaps more importantly, I've been employed in the commercial television industry now for over 23 years. I continue such uninterrupted employment with CHBC Television, which is in Kelowna in the interior of the province, about a 4-hour drive from here. It's an independent affiliate of the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation. I've served in many areas of this operation, most notably as Director of Television News Presentation. I did that for 7 years, and Promotions Producer for 3 years, and then Promotion Director for the TV station for 5 years. Just a little bit more here. I'm currently studying professional fundraising management on a part-time basis at our regional university college, and this is a national certificate course teaching professional business practices for non-profit sector agencies such as ourselves. I'm three quarters of the way through that process. Square dancing being a part of my life, you joked earlier, you'll be surprised at this, Bill. 27 years I've been square dancing, and 5 years as a teen. And no, I don't see my teen caller here, so I won't embarrass him. Mostly, my leadership roles have been at club, regional, and provincial levels, mostly in public relations and some sort of promotion capacity. I served as promotion director for the first provincial convention ever to take place inland from the coastal areas. We called it Festival 89. It was in the city of Kelowna, and it drew about 900 people. And here we are at the first CALLERLAB out in Canada, eh? That's pretty good, too. The other part that I thought I should give you here as some orientation is, why am I here? Well, there's one particular focus. It is because we've been making some major efforts in the area of promotion at the provincial level here in BC over the last few years. Now, it's an ongoing process. We're still learning, but I think we've really made some inroads. I'm the chairperson of Square Up BC. It's a marketing initiative by the BC Square and Round Dance Federation. And the name Square Up BC is several things. It's maybe most importantly a spirit, a theme. Square Up BC, get the province into the activity. It's also an ongoing campaign. We talked, I think it was mentioned earlier that square dancing's I think it was in the opening session this morning, I'm sorry, that square dancing needs to be promoted year-round. Well, it's an ongoing campaign for us. And it's also the name of the promotion committee, identifying certain individuals under the provincial federation that serve that function. Most notably, we've been involved in the production and commercial broadcast of a square dance television commercial, for which support materials were developed in the form of a marketing kit, which I'll give you a boo at a little later. Over the last 2 years, Square Up BC has invested over $10,000 into such television advertising. And one of the reasons was to have control over the message. Promotion on a public service basis certainly can be valuable, but it usually leaves you with little control. And Otto touched on that to some degree. Our focus on the commercial television medium was in recognition of its power and its influence today, along with the tremendous geographic reach and economical cost per 1,000 persons delivered for the money invested. It's probably due to television, along with other media such as film, that our recreation doesn't enjoy a very good image. For some reason, those media won't admit that we've evolved into a modern activity, and darn it, good old word-of-mouth promotion of square dancing has a hard time competing with the negative imagery of television and film in particular. I want to share a few seconds with you looking at a piece of video to make my point. So what I have here is what preschoolers recently learned square dancing to be from their absolute idol. You'll all know this character, Barney the Purple Dinosaur. A few of you? Okay. Now, Barney is a communicating dinosaur. He's seen regularly by millions of children on the public broadcast service, and that's throughout the United States and Canada, and darn it, I bet you they go other places in the world too by satellite. In this scene, he's taking some children to the farm, and after they look at a real cow, Barney announces that there are other things to be done down on the farm. Here we'll see the children develop their first impressions of square dancing. It's fairly short, won't take too long.
You're both smart, Sean. A baby cow is kind of cow. Visiting the farm can be so exciting when you get to see animals like this.
Oh, but there are lots of other fun things to do on a farm, Lucy.
Like what, Barney?
Why, singing and dancing. It's time we all square dance to a good old-fashioned barnyard tune like Turkey in the Straw.
Yeah!
Okay. Bye-bye. See you, Cleo. Bye-bye. Here we go! Oh, 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 oh. As I was going on down the road with a tired team and a heavy load, I cracked my whip and the leader sprung, and I said bye-bye to the wagon tongue. Taking the slop, taking the slop. Roll up and cook it up behind the car and get him up again the train.
I've had enough. This session today is called Square Dance Promotion. Now, a promotion really is just a component of the marketing process. We really should be talking about marketing here, because promotion is usually the final action in the process and is really dependent on the other components. Those components are considerations of product or service. In this case, we're providing a service, a recreation. Place and price. Service, the place, the price. They all have to be considered, and considered very seriously, before you can promote. Those are your marketing components. That we are marketing as the modern square dance recreation. And now marketing differs from selling in that it's based in the marketplace, outside of our dance institution. We don't think of this often. Our objective has to be to find out what people already want from a recreation and put it on the shelf for sale. Selling is, on the other hand, is rooted inside the institution and attempts to convince people to buy what you already have on the shelf. For years we've been saying in our promotion that square dancing is for everyone. While that's true, that line isn't necessarily a good marketing strategy. Those whom we're trying to recruit are probably more interested in how the activity meets their needs, including a probable need to associate with others in their same age range. We touched on that a few moments ago too. The most effective form of marketing is by market segmentation. It's accomplished through two tasks: defining the market, identifying and selecting the population segments which meet the priorities of your organization, be it CALLERLAB or Square Up BC, the Provincial Dance Federation. Defining the market was the number one task in being effective with your market segmentation. The second one is targeting the market. You've defined it, so now direct your marketing activities toward those defined market segments deemed to have the highest potential. I mean, you could go after everybody if you want, but you're looking at the market segments that have the highest potential for what you need in your organization. A variation here actually can be done on CALLERLAB's convention slogan, reach out and target someone. So you're going to define the market, you're going to target the market if you're going to truly market effectively. That is how you segment the market. Defining the market involves a look at many variables, but this is what we must do before we can target those whom our activity needs most. The variables include consideration of geographic and demographic segments. They're pretty obvious: age, gender, income. You also look at psychographic segments. This is really interesting to me, that we would actually sit down in doing our marketing strategy and look at social classes, personalities, ideas, interests, and general lifestyles as we segment our market and target those who have the highest potential to be participants. Behavioral segments. This is also interesting. Knowledge, attitude, use, and response to the service, particularly how are people using our service of the modern square dance recreation currently. So you also look at behavioral segments. Once we determine what recreational service the public wants from us, we might consider making appropriate revisions to our service offering, our place, and our price, and then on the shelf it goes for promotion. Okay, here's the fun part. Square Up BC launched its opening campaign in the fall of 1992, feeling that a major promotional effort had to be undertaken as soon as possible, and based upon what market segmentation we had identified up to that point, A 30-second square dance television commercial made here in British Columbia was broadcast province-wide in 1992 and again in 1993 at community service rates over a 2-week period in late August, early September. Pretty typical recruitment period there, late August, early September. I slipped in the words community service rates just to do an aside. Television operations, and I think we touched on this one too earlier, will more gladly receive you if you chip in something. So we made the initial purchase, and then they chipped in the equal number of commercials to be seen in on a rotational basis. Most importantly now is the TV ad was targeted within TV shows garnering an adult audience aged 35 to 54 with a skew. You're becoming marketers here. Skew is a word meaning a slant or a preference toward a particular market segment, a skew toward who else but the female viewers. It's the ladies that get the men into this recreation. Won't most of the men admit that? So we skewed the television effort toward the female viewers.
Excuse me for an interruption. Just to clarify, the age, that 34 to 50...
35 to 54.
And was that the actual ages of the populations here, or that's the ages of the populations that you strategically chose to target?
This is the latter, yeah, that we chose to target. Mostly motivated, Bill, by the fact that we feel this is the group we need most in our recreation. Now, as another aside, we're starting to think that maybe we should not aim quite so low, that maybe next time around we'll start at 54 and go up. The Square Up BC Committee, and this is an important aspect of this, the committee expected that the television advertising would primarily serve to raise awareness and general public image about our recreation, hopefully being of some influence. I mean, that's the key, is to influence people toward our message. We believe that any dramatic upswing in new dancer numbers as a result of our efforts won't be seen for a while. Persistence over about 5 years is thought to be necessary for what we've launched into. The competitive positioning, here's another word, your marketers, positioning our activity within the recreational marketplace primarily addressed public image here. That was our goal, public image for our recreation to start. We're trying to position the modern square dance recreation. The creative aspect of the television commercial, which I have here, of course, I'm going to play it for you, involved the presentation of testimonials of dancers as to what was special to them about the recreation. Comments included, I'll just read these guys off. We always have a great time. The people are terrific. We enjoy being together, the couple component of our activity. We like the exercise, an obvious component. I think we'll revise that to include mental exercise. That came up earlier there. Our whole family participates. You'll see a family on the screen, and this is the comment that comes from that group. Square dancing's fun, says a teen, and in fact exclaims the teen. Square dancing's fun. And we can't believe how much we enjoy it. Fellow at the end of the commercial has this wonderful smile on his face, just what Otto was telling us about earlier. Get those smiles, get that sense of enjoyment into your message. The commercial opened with the title, A New Song and Dance Routine, taken from the CALLERLAB brochure, which was recommended in the marketing kit for handout, and I'll show you the kit in a moment. That's the brochure. I think everybody's seen the CALLERLAB brochure, but this was the inspiration. It was the theme from which sprung the TV commercial and other support materials I'll show in a moment. One paragraph before the commercial here. The commercial depicts a youthful caller and dancers. You hear a modern piece of music in keeping with the target market. A toll-free telephone number appears throughout the ad, just in case someone wants more information. And there wasn't an answering machine on the line, at least that wasn't the original intent, although at one point we did link one up. The particular broadcast occasion you're about to see here is within a commercial break within the popular game show Jeopardy. Does anybody not know Jeopardy? It follows a beer commercial. No, we didn't ask to have it put after the beer commercial, but just the same, it was an excellent target marketing opportunity. We bought broadcast time in trying to reach people who are watching programs and they're aged 35 to 54. Jeopardy is a program of huge interest to that target market segment. So here we have the Square Up BC television commercial after a beer ad in Jeopardy. Okay.
Green malts make it taste special. This fall, learn a new song and dance routine.
Circle to the left. Hey, how about you, partner? We always have a great time.
The people are terrific.
We enjoy being together.
It's good exercise.
Our whole family participates.
Good after fun.
We can't believe how much we enjoy it.
Lessons in modern square dancing start soon. So Square Up BC. Call to locate the session nearest you.
You like that? A written survey, I'm sorry, I've got just written in a little note here. If we had to buy that 30 seconds in Jeopardy separately, it would be $1,000 in this particular TV market. But we got a package deal, so it was a lot less than that. But it was a wonderful position to have the thing placed. A written survey of new dancer lesson attendance around the province did reveal that the TV commercial had been seen. Statistics from the Independent Bureau of Broadcast Measurement told us that the 1993 TV campaign just last fall, that message reached a population of 2.6 million adult viewers aged, now they had a broader spectrum because it was the best they could give us, 25 to 54. And they also count what's called an impression. We made 3.7 million impressions. That means that they keep counting everybody that saw the ad, even if it was you 3 times. So when you add all those up, you get a lot of impressions. 3.7 million impressions and actual viewership of 2.6 million over the 2-week campaign. A groundswell of interest in new dancer lessons didn't occur. Wasn't really expected at this early stage in the process, but it's really been difficult to convince various dance organizations that we work with to have patience in that regard. They want results faster. Something of a test market did occur prior to our campaign. A BC Interior City broadcast this same ad in their region for a January recruitment. The 2 clubs hosting the lessons witnessed a total of 15 squares showing up on the first night. The TV commercial and other promotional components, I've got to tell you about that just momentarily, in conjunction with the TV ad were credited for those 15 squares. Those clubs were absolutely delighted. It was a wonderful turnout. And it's been a heck of an injection of new dancers for that particular city. The success of the TV campaign was also tied to the effort of local dance associations to make a strong promotional push in their area. To that end, a marketing kit was made available free of charge. We developed this with all the instructions inside as to how you can tie in to the effort. The back section is tools, things that we made available or told you where you could get the CALLERLAB brochure or whatever. In the back, we actually gave our marketers a poster with a blank section on it. They're wedged in here real good. You'll have to take my, you're going to be a show and teller for me, thank you. There's a poster, flyer, with a blank section where you put your local information in. And the other one that Bill has are small newspaper advertisements. So we gave people what they needed to get a start. I got to wrap it up in a minute here. Of course, the classic CALLERLAB brochure and other stuff was stuffed in the back there. The thing I want to stress here is something called synergy goes a long way to helping your effort. And we also made available, should any groups want them, posters such as these. This one has specific information. This one's general. The type of thing you'd put behind yourselves in a mall display or whatever. But what I wanted to point out is on them it says advertised on TV. It's got a new song and dance routine, modern square dancing. And my point here is that something called synergy is happening. In fact, I think I heard it in the opening session today from your Chairman Mike Seastrom. He talked about synergy. It's a combined and coordinated effort that everything should meld and blend together. And Mike also said, I remember, that when you combine the parts, all the parts, they become greater than the whole by this process of synergy. I just want to corner some final comments here for you. The committee continues right now to work in other avenues. Things like we have a local teen festival. 500 to 1,000 teens compete annually in this region. We try to bring media awareness to that. We've made some wonderful inroads with the school system in the province of British Columbia just recently, and we're trying to get things changed. We find that the children are being taught at this point in time to the square dance tune, "Oh Johnny Oh." Apparently that's a real oldie, and I'm not surprised. But we're trying to bring that up to date.
Did you write that?
The other type of thing that we're looking at is when we have a provincial festival, and in this province they happen every 2 years, we're looking at actually buying broadcast television time, or possibly radio, or possibly newspapers, using the mass media to tell the region in which a festival or a convention lands that we're here in the thousands, often in the thousands when it comes to festivals or conventions. And furthermore, we're also considering giving guided tours of the convention as it's occurring, and the media can promote that fact that you can come down and we'll take you around. We'll show you the difference between the advanced hall and the plus hall, between clogging and round dancing, so that there's no perceptions, false perceptions made. These are some ideas that we're working on right now. I think I'll just run right ahead to my closing comments here. I think that Mike Seastrom, your chairman, said it best in CALLERLAB Viewpoints in October of '93 in American Square Dance magazine. He wrote that the success of local programs, such as those conducted by Legacy, CALLERLAB, Square Up BC, depends upon local factors and local leadership. Little impact can be realized if there aren't active local caller or dancer leaders. Since this is a callers convention, I encourage you so much to get out there and lead in your community, such that tools like I've presented and Otto has presented can be used to benefit our recreation. Thank you so much for the time.
That was superb. Yes, question from the floor.
I'm Dorothy Horrigan from Phoenix, Arizona, and maybe I missed this. What did it cost to run that segment, actually cost you?
Yes, it was about $5,000, contracted for $5,000 for the 2 weeks. And then the next year we sunk another $5,000 into it.
And cost to make it?
Oh.
That too.
It's an interesting story. Of course, that's an element. I know that the ad cost about $1,800 to be made. It was made in the interior, where I'm from, actually. And again, very few nonprofits go to the television station to have a commercial of that caliber put together, and they gave us a break. It could have been $2,000 or $3,000, but we got it through for $1,800, and that is local dancers from that particular region.
And this is an organization that made this for you?
Yes, it was made by a dance association in the interior of this province.
Thank you.
Yeah. To run it provincially, by the way, some rights had to be cleared and all, but it went okay.
Let me hand back to Otto just for a moment.
If you're worried about cost, let me give you, for instance, this little magazine right here, The Wear and Win from Houston Square and Round Dance Council. Costs $25,000 a year to publish. And who gets it? Square dancers. This thing here has ads on who's calling where, and does the general public ever see it? We're spending money advertising to ourselves, and it's dumb. We spend $25,000 a year advertising to ourselves, and we did not spend one nickel last year. My wife and I financed the videos for the last 4 years in the Houston Square Dance area, not the Dancer Association. The Dancer Association don't buy stamps. The callers are going to have to do it. I'm telling you, folks, that's where it's going to have to happen.
That's a very interesting comment and should not be construed negatively. Okay, no, I'm really very serious about that because that really is not a negative comment. That is simply a reflection of probably the reality in many areas. And we're going to have to dig into our corporate pockets, if you will, to raise some of this money to get some of these things done. If you happen to be an area where the national convention has just been and there's $60,000 or $70,000 sitting there, or if you've had a successful state convention or state festival where funds are available for promotion, then funding like that could be available. That's one point that I did want to make. When you're having large not-for-profit events, by not-for-profit where it's not a caller-run event, but you have a federation or an association running an event, a state convention and all that, really work with that committee to help get a portion of the excess revenues from that, and let's assume it's profitable, if you will, that they have a positive cash flow, that a segment of that revenue is specifically put back into promotional activities. There are just 1,000 ways money can be spent, but it's terribly important to get that kind of commitment from the local dancers associations, in addition to generous people like Otto and I'm sure others like him around the country.
Mike Amo from Pittsburgh, California. I'd like to tell you that in our neighborhood, we've been able to take advantage of those same facilities, and our expense has been the film for maybe $40 and $15 for the class to learn how to use the equipment. So we don't spend anywhere near what you're spending, but we have the same facility. So I thought I would mention that you guys are, generally speaking, in larger numbers, but I think if we as callers go find out about it, we may find that it doesn't cost nearly as much to do.
Thank you very much. I'm sure that there are just tons of resources out there that are available, and I'm sure that you can find sponsorships or cooperative things, or where the callers might do a part of it and the local dancers association might do it. You have your callers associations where the burden doesn't necessarily fall on one or two individuals, but rather is spread over perhaps a larger population. Let me make a couple of just very quick comments. By the way, I didn't really formally introduce myself before. I'm Bill Heyman, and along with my wife, we own Supreme Audio, Hanhurst Tape and Record Service, and Aztec Record Distributors. We are full-time in the business, okay? I am not a road caller. I am very much a local club caller, but we left the corporate world a number of years ago and have been pretty much involved in this activity full-time. The couple of things I just wanted, and I'll just circulate these around if at some point you would just get them back up to the front. This is just a simple kind. I want to get back to perhaps some of the more mundane kinds of promotional things. This happens to be two callers. They call themselves the Duo up in the New England area. I'm not promoting them as good or bad callers. That's not really the issue. But they have a very interesting thing. They have their own little magazine, brochure, promotional booklet, and it's the Duo Update. They have the winter volume. They obviously produce it 4 or 5 times a year, and they have a regular index on the front, and they tell you where they're going. They have little articles in there, advertisements for each one and every one of their events. It's just a very neat vehicle, and the callers here might particularly want to look at that, see if you can do something. It doesn't have to be quite this exotic on 70-pound, colored paper, but there are a lot of things that you can do. That's one. If you can maybe just take that and start that in circulation. Thanks. Another promotional item, very simple thing. This individual caller has re-represented, if you will, or duplicated partially United States currency. And as with all currency in the United States, there is a founding father's portrait in the very center. It happens to be Marshall Slippo. And what this basically is, this is simply a discount coupon. It's a $100 gift certificate valid only at the Kirkwood Lodge and Gift Shop, okay? And obviously Marshall is connected with that. The purpose here is not to give an advertisement for Kirkwood, but it's to show you a simple kind of vehicle. These are put out by the gajillions at dances. And they are left out there, and you can give it to somebody, and they're going to get $100 off their next week or weekend event down at Kirkwood Lodge. It's a real simple thing, costs absolutely nothing to print up. You can do 4 of these on an 8.5 by 11, photocopy them, get out there either with a scissors, a paper cutter, or pay your printer $1.50. He'll slice them in about 3 seconds. These kinds of things are terribly, terribly simple to do, and you can just pass those around if you'd be so kind. Yeah, sure, absolutely, sure. Sure. I'm sure if you phone Marshall, he'll give you the $100 off too. Anyway, like the way I spend other people's money. Here are just a series of booklets from United Square Dancers of America. That is a wonderful dancer organization. They're working very, very hard and doing some absolutely fine things. Their publications, and you can contact the USDA representatives who are here today, and the addresses and everything are in here. You can certainly look at these. They just put out back-to-back publications of just wonderful things about promotion, recruiting, club leadership and all that, just superb kinds of things. And I think there's a nominal cost from 75 cents a brochure, $1 a brochure. It's certainly not a whole bunch of money, but there are a lot of tips and pointers in here, not just on promotion, but on things that you can do in helping your clubs to do better, whether they be caller-run clubs or whether they be dancer-run clubs. Let me make just a couple of other quick comments. In business... Thank you very much. Bob is here from USD. I didn't even know you were here. Thank you. Those brochures will all be at the National in Portland. They're free. They will be probably in the showcase of ideas, and there'll probably be humongous stacks of them out there. And if you don't find enough there, snag him. He's right over there. Okay. In any event, but these are the kinds of resources that are already written. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. A lot of this stuff has already been written. There's a lot of great research that's been done in this area. A quick comment on what I call the 80-20 rule. If any of you are in the business world, you know pretty much what the 80-20 rule is. The 80-20 rule states that 80% of your business is going to always come from 20% of your customers. It doesn't matter what your business is, whether you're a restaurant, a square dance shop, clothing shop, or anything, you will find that your repeat business over time, that your most faithful customers give you virtually all of your revenue. If you're willing to accept that, and I can't prove it statistically that it's true in any given case, but it's been long accepted that that is true, then while you're talking about your promotion, view your existing dancer population as 80% of your market. Or said differently, you've had the acquisition cost of getting this new customer in. Whether they've been in for a year or 20 years, it doesn't really matter. But you've spent all the effort and money, be it in video, TV show, Access TV, publications, or whatever else. You've spent the money to get that person in or that couple in, and then they are ill-treated, not appreciated, abused in the many ways that our activity is capable of doing it, from having them be the refreshments chairman for 13 years back-to-back, other cute little things like that our activity has a knack for doing. You are going to lose that person, especially in those first 2 years. Once they're in 10 or 15 years, you're probably not going to lose them. You could probably push them real hard. My point here is, while we should be very, very focused, and the major focus of this presentation today and this discussion was to talk about promotion and new promotion, let us not forget the fact that the existing dancer body still represents 80% of our potential revenue, and maybe a little bit skewed since we have so many elderly people on here. Obviously, the population is diminishing on that end of the spectrum, but if you want to argue and say it's 50%, I didn't look at you, Osa. I didn't, dumb. The fact is, if you want to argue it down because of the skewed age curve in our activity, if you want to argue that down to 50 or 70%, fine. I'll take whatever percentage you feel is appropriate, but the existing dancers are your best promoters. And when you saw all those wonderful smiling faces on that video and all that, I mean, gosh, that's just the best vehicle that you can have. Jim, I know you wanted to make a quick comment. If you could come right up to this microphone here and step right down the aisle. Just try and keep it short. We're running out of time.
I'm going to try and keep it very short. Going to try and bounce off the earlier speaker's comment about market segmentation and such. And we've been trying to look in our area for something to grab the support of the community in helping us to promote instead of just us doing the promotion. And if we recognize that the institutions that we have most in common with seem to be churches, schools, PTA, lodges, scouting, boys and girls clubs, all of those community type activities. We're going to bribe them this fall. At least a small group of us are going to bribe them this fall and go out to going to do a mailing for several hundred and say for everybody that comes from your group or that comes in and gives your group's name and registers for square dance lessons, I'm going to give you $10. I don't care if it's 1, 10, 1,000. And you have the right now to either throw this away, or you can put it on your washroom walls, or you can put it on your bulletin board, you can put it in your newsletter, or you can assign a recruiting committee to bring as many people as possible from your organization over into my dances. But my money is here for you. Would you like to participate in this?
That's the discount coupon. That's the promo. That's the great kind of tangible things. How many of you use coupons at the supermarket? Yeah, sure. Everybody does it at some point in time. We have a tape service. I have a promotional coupon sitting out on the table out in front of the CALLERLAB office. $10 off if you subscribe before May 15th. The point is not whether you're going to subscribe to my service or not, but people do appreciate a bargain. Give out coupons. I know in one area, the Dancers Association had, I believe, 20 or 26 clubs. It's in the northern Vermont area. There's 20-odd clubs. At graduation time, every graduate is handed a coupon book, 50% off, $1 off, a free dance, whatever it is, to every club, and their name is on the book. It's not transferable. It's for them. They are going to be, the retention on that is very, very high. So here are all of these new dancers. You can retain them. Remember the 80-20 rule. If out of the X number of dancers, you can really retain a significant portion, they are going to be not only the sustenance of your active program, but they are, in fact, already paid for in your promotional budget. You've already spent the money. You don't have to spend any new dollars to keep them. You don't have to spend any new dollars to get them enthusiastic to go out and promote the activity. So while we should be focusing a lot on the new dancer recruitment, please don't forget the existing population. I realize it's a little bit like preaching to the choir because I know you're all in the same position that I am. It's a very tough goal to reach sometime, and perhaps a little bit easier to say. The words are inexpensive over the microphone. Are there any other? We have it's about 10 of 5. We should really wrap up in 10 minutes. Are there any other good, successful programs that you've had good experience with, either video or not video, printed media, any things that you've done, gimmicks that you've done in your clubs or your associations have done? Are there any questions for the members of the panel? Very good. If not, I'd like to thank you very... Oh, yes, quick question, please. Please step up to the microphone. Yeah, so everybody can hear you.
Sonia Wiener, Bronx, New York. Kind of a silly question. Why not red? Why...
Okay, the red bleeds. When you see, and when you go to edits and you get into the second and third generation, the American flag, you see the streaks going across, it bleeds. You don't want a lot of checks. I want to give y'all, I didn't tell this, Bill, I want to give y'all some figures real quick, because I didn't read my notes when I was doing this. National figures show 70% of everything we learn today, we learn on television. There's a reading crisis in our schools. Newspapers across the country are in trouble due to low subscription rates. The news is brought to us in condensed form, and we tend to believe everything we see as truth. We would have elected Walter Cronkite as president. We never dreamed the man would ever tell a lie. Television compresses information and requires 25 to 75% less time to present the same message you would do in written form or in person as we do. The major reason for video's increasing acceptance is based on studies which found retention, and that's the reason we want to use television, is 20 to 40% greater. Video is a visual medium and has the ability to hold interest through color, motion, and sound. By combining these three elements, the universally accepted medium, learning can be accelerated by 78% and comprehension by 70%. That's the reason you want to use video. Major industries are using video to train. Yes.
I'm Otto Christensen from West St. Paul, the other end of the country. Recently I was involved with a TV production wherein we used a clown as an interrogator and participant. And I was feeling a little uneasy about the whole situation. I saw this purple dinosaur sequence, and I was curious what your panel reaction is to using a nationally recognized figure, but with the right kind of presentation. Marvin the Clown learned to square dance as a result of our activity that brief time we were there. And I think it's done right. It might be done well, but I'd like to have your comments on that.
If I can take, just due to shortage of time, if I can take the liberty of answering that, and I don't represent myself as a video or TV expert, but at our common meeting, which we finished in the hour prior to this, and at the CALLERLAB board meeting, I'm a member of the Board of Governors, at the board meeting last night, that very subject was discussed. It apparently is a very, very effective medium to have a spokesperson at a correctly selected, correct image spokesperson. Doesn't have to be dressed up in a suit and tie, obviously, and certainly you don't want Barney. Okay, I know you agree. But the fact is that national spokespersons or international spokespersons are a very effective medium, and you can bet that they're effective if these national companies are spending millions, if not billions of dollars, starting with the obvious sports stars and sneakers, going right down to Mary Alice Williams doing 9X advertisements in the New England area for telephone services, whether it's Maximum Advantage or anything like that, so that they are very, very effective, and it's in fact a cost-effective way to do it. And the other thing is, you might be able to get one of these folks to volunteer. For example, Peter Jennings was a square dance caller. Yes, that's how he started. He was a square dance caller many years back. Closing comments. There are a limited number of Otto's presentation here. If you would like to take them, they're certainly free for you. There are several reference copies, not for taking, but there are several reference copies of this promotion kit that Brian and his folks have prepared, so you can certainly use them up here, but please don't remove them from the room. Oh, and yeah, and there are also some souvenir buttons here. I'd like to thank you all for your attentiveness. I thought the comments from the floor were particularly interesting. Thanks very much, and let's go out and promote. Thank you.